Okay, let's unpack this. We are stepping into, well, a really high-stakes arena of modern conflict today. We're focusing specifically on some of the world's most advanced military radar systems. The eyes and ears of air defense, primarily Russia's sophisticated Nebo family, and some of its newer surveillance assets, too.
Right. These are critical pieces of technology we're talking about.
Exactly. And our mission today, really, is to synthesize a whole stack of sources. They detail the technical specs, the history, and maybe most importantly, the systematic neutralization of these incredibly expensive, absolutely critical sensors.
Mm-hmm.
This deep dive is about bringing together that complex tech with what's actually happening on the ground, the operational results.
Yeah.
Because right now, these strategic eyes, well, they seem to be getting blinded, primarily by low-cost drones and precision missiles.
And that's the fascinating core conflict here, isn't it? The asymmetry. You've got these multi-million-dollar state-of-the-art radar systems.
Mm.
I mean, designed to spot stealth jets maybe thousands of kilometers away,
Yeah.
being targeted, and it seems pretty routinely destroyed by systematic strikes from comparatively cheap, uncrewed platforms.
It really is striking.
Yeah, this is more than just a tactic, you know? It feels like a fundamental tactical evolution we really need to get our heads around.
Absolutely. So, okay, let's start with the biggest asset then. The cornerstone, maybe, of this strategic network. The Nebo M. Nebo meaning sky. It sounds ambitious, and its history, well, it seems to reflect that.
It certainly does. The initial thinking for this kind of system started way back, actually, in 1984, but the real push for the mobile, complex setup we see today, that ramped up after 1999.
After 99, why then specifically?
Well, the big driver was the perceived threat of stealth aircraft, specifically catalyzed by the American F-117 shoot-down over Yugoslavia. So the goal became pretty clear: develop a radar that could reliably detect stealth aircraft and at greater ranges than before.
And the claims from the manufacturer, they are, well, eye-watering, frankly. We're talking detection capabilities against fifth-gen aircraft like the F-22, the F-35, and also providing early warning for long-range ballistic missile launches.
Precisely. They're claiming a massive strategic awareness capability with this system, a huge bubble of detection.
A claimed range, get this, up to 3,800 kilometers for the domestic version, and an altitude ceiling of up to 1,200 kilometers. I mean, that's basically seen across an entire continent, isn't it?
It is. That level of power tells you something. This system isn't just about immediate tactical defense. It's positioned more for national strategic early warning, maybe survival.
That makes sense. That range is about seeing it early, not necessarily shooting it down instantly at that distance.
That's a key distinction, yes. Detection and early warning. But the real ingenuity or complexity, perhaps, is that Nebo M is not just one single radar unit. That's crucial. It's a complex, integrated system. It features multiple programmable multi-band radars, and they're all centrally fused.
Ah, okay. So multiple sensors feeding one brain.
Exactly, and that centralization allows it to network, to coordinate with the shooters, like the S-300, S-400, and Panzer missile systems.
Now, before the Nebo M was formally presented around 2012, there was its predecessor, right, the Nebo SVU, came out around 2001. And that system introduced something pretty important for tackling stealth.
It did indeed, the Nebo SVU. It operated in the VHF band, very high frequency, and it was the first radar, apparently, to use an active electronically scanned array, an AESA, operating specifically at meter wavelengths.
Meter wavelengths. Why is that significant for stealth?
Well, those very long radio waves, meter waves, they're inherently better sometimes at detecting stealth aircraft. The physics gets complicated, but basically they can cause the aircraft structure itself to resonate, which can defeat some stealth coatings optimized to get shorter, like centimeter wavelengths used by typical targeting radars.
Okay, that makes sense. Fighting physics with physics. So let's talk about that multi-frequency approach that really defines the Nebo M today. Why go to all the trouble and expense of fielding multiple physically separate types of radars? It seems cumbersome.
The thinking behind it is threat diversity and redundancy. Basically, Nebo M is built as a modification, a modernization of older systems that already operated in different frequency bands. You have VHF, like the Nebo SVU we just mentioned, then L-band, which is lower microwave, and SX-band, higher microwave frequencies. By deploying these three different radar types, often on separate, big 8x8, 24-ton trucks.
Wow, 24-ton trucks for each component.
Yeah, these are not small systems. But the idea is you create a radar picture that's harder to jam completely, harder to fool with specific electronic countermeasures that might only target one frequency band.
Which sounds incredibly advanced on paper, 3 separate massive eyes all working together. Until you realize, as you said, each one of those 24-ton trucks is potentially a separate, high-value, fairly static target, just waiting for an opponent who can get a good target fix on it.
Yeah. That's the vulnerability, exactly. So the system is broken down into this RLM series of radars. You've got the RLMM, that's the main component, the VHF and UHF 3D acquisition radar. Big picture view, claims a 600-kilometer range, and it's apparently fast enough to track objects flying at Mach 6.4.
Mach 6.4. So that's keeping pace with potential hypersonic threats coming in.
That seems to be the intent, yes. Then you have the RLMD, that's an L-band AES radar, also claiming a 600-kilometer range. And finally, the RLMS, that's the X-band AESA mobile radar, operates in the centimeter range, probably used for more precise, higher resolution tracking once something's been spotted.
Okay, so long wave, medium wave, short wave radars, potentially deployed miles apart. All that raw data needs a central brain to make sense of it all, right?
Absolutely. That brain is the KURLK command post. It's the linchpin. Its whole job is data fusion, taking all the observations from those different frequency radars, potentially kilometers apart, and combining them, fusing it into a single coherent radar picture for the operators and, crucially, for the connected missile systems.
Makes sense. And deployment started, what, 2012, 2013?
Roughly then, yes. Public presentation in 2012, delivery started soon after, and we saw them pop up in key strategic areas: Crimea, near St. Petersburg, Karelia, the Far East. Components were reportedly used in Syria, too.
Okay, so the Nebo family, it was really designed for those big strategic threats, stealth bombers, ICBMs. But warfare, well, it shifted. What happens when the main threat isn't some massive jet at 30,000 feet, but swarms of small, persistent drones maybe flying at 300 feet?
Exactly. And that seems to have brought a whole new generation of more specialized radars into play, which, maybe ironically, are now also being actively targeted.
Right, so let's talk about those newer systems.
A prime example is the 98L6 Yenisei radar. This one is often described as the eyes for the even more advanced S-500 Parmiti air defense system, which itself is apparently slow to produce and deploy.
And the NSA, what makes it unique? Is it the altitude reach?
That's a big part of it. It's specifically designed, reportedly, to detect threats up to 600 kilometers away, but also way up high, 100 kilometers altitude. So it's tailored for those really high-tech targets, hypersonic missiles, maybe even objects in low Earth orbit. It's also meant to be robust, resistant to heavy electronic jamming. And it can integrate with older S-400s, too, to boost the overall network.
Okay, high-end threats. And then at the other end of the scale, we have the specific anti-drone specialist, the Valdai Complex, designation 117 ZDEF6 RLKMC. This feels like the definition of irony, a system designed specifically to counter the drone threat, being taken out by a drone.
It really does. The Valdai is modern, presumably quite costly, and built specifically to tackle small UAVs. It's a dedicated counter-drone system. It's got a 3-coordinate X-band radar, optoelectronic tracking like cameras, and, importantly, a direction-finding suite.
Direction finding, so it can pinpoint where the drone's control signal is coming from?
Yeah, that's the idea. Pinpoint and disrupt the control links. And its minimum detection range, interestingly, starts at just 300 meters, so it can spot threats almost right on top of itself.
Shows they definitely recognized the small drone problem.
They did, but building the countermeasure doesn't make the countermeasure itself immune. The asset became a primary target.
And finally, in this newer generation list, we have the low-altitude specialist, the Costa 2E2, or 39 and 6.
Right, the Costa 2E2. This is a mobile 2-coordinate radar, operates in the decimeter band. Its main job is 360-degree surveillance, but specifically designed to detect and track those low-flying air targets. The ones trying to sneak in under the radar coverage of the big strategic systems like S-400.
It plugs that low-altitude gap.
Exactly, a crucial part of a truly layered air defense network. You need eyes at all altitudes.
Okay, so we've got the hardware laid out, from the massive Nebo M down to the specialized Costa and Valdai. Now, let's pivot from the technical specs to the operational reality. And this is where the sources seem to paint a very clear, very strategic picture. The Institute for the Study of War, ISW, they put out an assessment suggesting Ukraine might be conducting a very targeted, systematic effort, specifically to degrade Russian air defenses.
Right, and that ISW assessment linked this systematic blinding campaign directly to the anticipated arrival of fighter jets, specifically the F-16s. The thinking is Kyiv is actively trying to set the conditions to pave the way for using manned fixed-wing air power more effectively in the future.
That makes perfect sense. You can't really risk sending in multi-million-dollar jets if the enemy still has powerful long-range eyes that can see them coming from hundreds of kilometers away.
Exactly. You have to degrade that detection capability first, create gaps in their radar coverage.
So this isn't just random attrition hitting whatever pops up. It looks like a strategic campaign focusing on the most critical network nodes. They seem to be targeting the command and control systems, primarily the radars, maybe even more than just the missile launchers themselves.
That seems to be the pattern emerging, taking out the eyes and brains, not just the fists.
Okay, let's look at the pattern of destruction then, because the sequence, the specific systems being hit, it tells a story.
Right. Let's start with maybe the highest end loss reported recently, the 98L6 Yenisei, the S-500's advanced radar. Claimed destroyed in Crimea back on August 7th, 2025. The strike was attributed to a unit called Primary, apparently using a precision-guided drone system.
And given what you said about the S-500 being slow to produce, losing its main radar is a significant blow, right?
It's a massive blow, potentially, especially to that high-altitude anti-hypersonic defense capability they're trying to build. These aren't systems you can replace quickly.
Okay, now let's look at the Costa 2E2, the low-altitude tracker. There are multiple recent losses reported, including one in October 2025. And the method used here is really revealing.
It is. This strike was reportedly carried out by the 92nd Assault Brigade, using a loitering munition, like a kamikaze drone. But the key piece of information, the really interesting part, is how they apparently found it first.
Go on.
A domestically produced Ukrainian Shark reconnaissance drone apparently located the Costa 2E2 first.
Ah, so one drone finds it, another drone kills it.
Exactly. The operational kill chain laid bare. The Shark is the relatively cheap, expendable intel asset, flying around looking. Once it spots and identifies the high-value radar, which is probably trying to hide but still has to emit, then they can vector in the loitering munition for the actual strike.
Find, fix, finish with drones.
Precisely. And that specific strike, it was cited as the third confirmed Costa radar strike that month alone. That points to a systematic effort, not just lucky shots.
That pattern is crucial. And that sequence, ISR drone scouting, followed by a dedicated strike platform, it really demonstrates the tactical freedom the attacking side gains.
It does. And even the systems designed specifically to stop drones aren't safe. The Valdai anti-drone complex, reportedly destroyed by HUR drone specialists. This was at Junkoy Airfield in Crimea, October 20th, 2025.
So the anti-drone system gets taken out by a drone.
The ultimate irony, yes. And losing that complex, well, it reduces the local air defense effectiveness against drones in that area. It potentially opens up more avenues for persistent Ukrainian drone attacks across the south.
Okay, and circling back to where we started, the big one, the Nebo family itself. It hasn't been immune, has it?
Not at all. The sources mention a Nebo-M reportedly destroyed using an ATAS-CMS missile way back in October 2024. Shows they've been targets for a while. But then more recently, October 2025 again, there were specific claims. Ukrainian forces saying they destroyed 3 Nebo-M radars in Crimea using maritime drone carriers.
Maritime drone carriers. So drones launched from drone boats.
That seems to be the implication. Using uncrewed surface vessels, maybe even submersible ones, to get close to the coast and launch strikes against these valuable air defense assets positioned near the shore.
Wow, that adds a whole new dimension.
It really does. Moving these enormous heavy radar trucks far inland is difficult and limits their coverage, so hitting them from the sea shows the threat is multi-domain: air, land, and sea. And we also have claims against the older Nebo SVU, the VHF one, destroyed by SBU drones near Armyansk back in May 2024, and footage apparently emerged of another strike in August 2025.
So the scale of targeting across the entire radar family, the big strategic Nebo, the high-end Yenisei, the low-level Costa, the anti-drone Valdai, it looks comprehensive.
It certainly appears systematic and aimed at degrading the whole layered network.
Okay, so let's try and synthesize this. What does this all mean for the bigger picture? We started by talking about these incredibly powerful systems like Nebo-M, designed to detect stealth jets, potentially 3,800 kilometers away. Huge investment, peak technology. We end with this sobering reality that these complex, multi-million-dollar sensors are being systematically located and neutralized, often by cheap, uncrewed systems, and frequently located first by another low-cost reconnaissance drone, like that Shark UAV example.
And the relevance for you, the listener, is pretty clear, I think. This represents a fundamental tactical shift playing out right now in modern warfare. Situational awareness, the enemy's ability to see the battlefield provided by these most advanced radars, it's no longer a guaranteed resilient asset. It's actually become the primary vulnerability. And opponents are systematically exploiting that vulnerability, targeting that awareness deep behind enemy lines. The static, complex nature of these powerful systems seems to be their greatest weakness against this new kind of threat.
It really changes the entire calculus, doesn't it? For layered air defense, for the survivability of any high-value ground assets, if you can't hide your sensors, how do you protect anything else?
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, maybe looking forward,
Yeah.
it raises a really important question. The reliance on multi-frequency radar, VHF, L-band, X-band,
Uh,
that whole approach was specifically engineered to defeat the physical stealth of an advanced aircraft, trying to find ways to make it visible on radar.
right.
But how does a military now defend its expensive, powerful eyes from the, let's call it, digital stealth and the surgical precision of a coordinated drone strike, especially when those drones might be attritable, even numerous?
That's the dilemma.
That is the ultimate strategic dilemma, I think, now facing defense planners everywhere. How do you balance protecting these multi-million-dollar sensors against the sheer ubiquity and cost-effectiveness of these remote, often autonomous or semi-autonomous attack platforms? It's a
Yeah.
huge challenge.